Before I bought my iPad about a month ago, I watched a lot of videos on the overall note-taking experience on the iPad, and all the videos I watched had one thing in common. Yeah, they looked really aesthetically pleasing, and so my idea of note-taking became centered around the tutorials that I watched, and this I believe is the main reason why most people get disappointed when they finally get an iPad, only for their notes to look like this. After buying the iPad, I quickly realized that every video I watched on note taken was greatly exaggerated.
What you're making a note on is just as important as how you're putting it together. Find the story that holds together the ideas and the concepts that you want to communicate.
Believe me, Money, it is not that deep.
Okay, now let's get down to business.
Before I actually share how my notes went from this to this.
Okay, seriously, let's get to the real reason we're here tonight.
Let's first try to address the elephant in the room. I hate to be the one to break it to you, but if your handwriting is bad on paper, then it will not be any different on the iPad. There is actually a way to get around this. You can just use the Apple Native Notes app, which is the only app that has this feature that enhances your handwriting, making it look better. But it does of course come at the expense of not having access to the great features apps like GoodNotes and Notability have. With that said, if your notes don't look aesthetic or just decent in general, two things are likely true. You are probably using the wrong pencil settings. That technically isn't a good standard, so you just have to play around with the settings, but I found the settings best mimic the standard pen or accustomed to when writing on paper, so you can give them a try. Secondly, let me show you something. This is the notebook that I used to take notes in a few years ago, and as you can see, my notes look really messy. And that's because I did not confine my writing within the lines, and the reason for that is that the lines were just too small. And this same problem actually exists when taking notes on a digital device. But the advantage with devices like the iPad is they allow you to adjust the line height by zooming into the aspect ratio that suits you best. So next time when you're about to take notes, don't just open your note-taking app and start writing. No, open your notes-taking app, zoom in up until you can write within the lines without thinking about writing within the lines while writing. This alone will drastically change how appealing your notes look. And now we can finally address the main issue. The first question you need to ask yourself when it comes to note-taking is that, are you trying to take aesthetic notes or are you trying to take effective notes? Aesthetic notes, in my opinion, prioritize the design of your notes rather than the purpose of your notes, which is to get knowledge from them. Hence, when you're taking aesthetic notes, you will find yourself doing graphics design, which is what taking aesthetic notes is, rather than actually studying. At the end of the video, I will share what I think is the best way to take aesthetic notes without sacrificing any of the stuff I just mentioned. You can stick around, of course, or you can just skip to that chapter of the video. On the other hand, taking effective notes doesn't necessarily come at the expense of the aesthetic aspect of the notes. Let's go to my notes real quick. This is how I take effective notes that are low-key aesthetic without even thinking about it in the process. Firstly, I choose the main color of my notes, which is either white or black, depending on my notebook background. Then, depending on the course I'm studying, I use different colors to emphasize different things. I try my best not to use more than 4 colors on the same page because I noticed that using a lot of different colors ends up making the notes look like a rainbow, so I keep the colors to a minimum. You could, for instance, pick a color specifically for headings, a color for formulas, a color for definitions, and so on, but just maintain the same color codes throughout your notebook or on that particular page. For instance, I write general statements or sentences starting from the second box and then a box or two from the general sentences is where I usually start writing things like explanations and definitions. Last but not the least, if you want to take aesthetic notes like this, the way you can do it without sacrificing your learning is by firstly taking effective notes. For instance, you can use the process I shared in this video, but basically you can take down the notes whichever way you'd like. And then later that day or any other day, when you're done studying, that's when you can try to design your notes. Not only is this going to help you better retain the information you just studied, because you're basically revising, it will also take off the pressure of trying to hit two birds with one stone. That's it for this video. Let me know down in the comments if you guys found these tips helpful. Thank you for watching.